Hi, once again, we are here with another installment of Pages Promotions Presents Indie Reads TV. Today with me in the studio, I have Beth Dumity from R&B Used Books in Grand Blanc. She's an amazing, wonderful used book proprietor. She has a great shop up there in Grand Blanc. We're going to talk to her a little bit about her history and about a nonprofit organization that she's involved with. And we're just going to, have a chat like we always do here in the studio. Welcome, Beth. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. I'm glad that you took the time to come down. I know the weather wasn't so great on your drive down today.
A little scary to get started.
I appreciate you braving the weather to come down. So tell us a little bit about your background. How did you find yourself getting involved with a bookshop?
I found myself getting involved with a bookshop quite accidentally. It was my husband's suggestion after I was fired from my job, and at the same time found out that he and I were expecting, which was something that we had been planning. So it was kind of a happy, bittersweet kind of.
Sure, yeah.
But I had the opportunity to be a stay-at-home mom.
Okay.
Enjoy my pregnancy, enjoy my son when he was
That's
young.
nice.
And read all I wanted because I've always been a reader.
Okay.
So the history is that on his suggestion is that back when my husband and I first started dating, you go through the what are your hopes, what are your dreams, what do you want for the future, blah, 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 blah. And he remembered that one of mine was that when I was little, I wanted to open a bookstore. And I used to play bookstore, and I used to let people buy my books from me, and then they actually had to, because I lent one out once and it got destroyed, so they actually had to give me the money for the book, and then when they brought the book back, I'd give them their money back. So when my son was 8 months old, and I was very happily not leaving the house at all, except to go get books.
Right.
And I would call him at work, let him know it was on Dr. Phil, let him know what we needed from the grocery store. And one day he came home from work and he's like, "This has to stop. And your books need to go, and you need to get a job." And I instantly dissolved into tears because I was like, "No, corporate America, I can't do it again."
Yeah.
Because I was in sales and martinis at 5 and the whole 9 yards. And I was really good at it, but it got old.
Of course, yeah. I ran into exactly the same problem. Once you've been doing that life for so many years, and then you get out of it, it's torturous thinking of going back into it.
I could feel my soul dying.
Sure.
Nothing against anybody who's in corporate America and is really good at it. We need those people in
Absolutely,
order to keep us going.
But you and I are not those people.
I'm not. I was good at it while it lasted, but I'm not those people. So he's the one who said, "Now's the time to open your bookstore." And I went, "Oh, I can't do that." And he my mother-in-law hates this story because I started with he kicked me and my books out of the house. But I think it's a really sweet story because without him, I would not have the bookstore. He went out.
How absolutely wonderful that you have such a devoted and supportive husband to help you reach that dream. That's incredible.
Yeah, he stopped in the store after work a couple days ago and changed all my light bulbs.
How wonderful.
I wasn't expecting him to. He just came in and changed all the light bulbs for me. So now we can see in there, which is always nice.
Yeah, and seeing his books, nice. It's tough to do books in the dark. So you have this amazing shop in Grand Blanc, and I've been there several times now, and you told me that it started much smaller than it is now. Talk about how it started, and then lead us into the progression of what you now have, because what you now have is a lot of books.
We do. We have a lot of books. When we first started, I had maybe 500 books. My husband found a little shop. It was 1,000 square foot. And it was like a shotgun shop. And open the front door, you could look all the way back through the back, and you could almost touch both walls with one hand. It was a little bigger than that. And we went in. I started making phone calls. Well, one of the things I did was I called a bookstore owner in Waterford named Carol, who owns Carol's Paperbacks Plus. Wonderful store. Wonderful woman. I said, if I wanted to own a bookstore when I grow up, what do I need to do? She said, "Oh, you need to come talk to me." And she literally had a bookstore in a box.
Isn't it great that we work and live in a community that is so terrifically supportive with this great mentoring environment?
Mm-hmm.
You and I have met so many mentors, and we've been mentors for each other as well. But how nice that, and I think that this is unique to our industry. I don't think many other industries out there in the world are as supportive and as kind with their mentoring skills as the literacy industry is.
I honestly believe that. I am on the phone almost every day with another bookstore trying to help a customer, asking a question. I'm on Facebook every day on indie bookstore owner pages.
Sure.
And we're all supporting each other, trying to hold each other up. The bookstore industry's been going through a tough time. We're starting to come back now.
Such a huge transition.
But it book selling when I started almost 16 years ago, and this is used. I don't do new. We're just transitioning into the new, as you know.
Sure.
Because that's where you're mentoring me.
Yeah.
Is so different.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first opened, I didn't have to bump up against Kindle. I didn't bump up against Amazon. I didn't have, all of these things.
Yeah, the marketplace was very, very different. And just the reach of readership has changed dramatically in the last 5 years, but 10 years, 15 years. It must be like night and day, I remember talking to my grandfather about, he was born in 1900, and we had this long conversation about the dramatic difference between outhouses and indoor toilets, right? Mm-hmm. So I would imagine that this is kind of a similar feeling for you because the industry has changed so dramatically since you started. It's got to be that big a difference.
It's a huge difference. And I can look, and I've done some TV and some newspaper interviews before, and I can look and see the cycle by my tone in the interviews. Mm-hmm. Whether I'm hopeful, whether I'm struggling, whether we're trying to get something done, or how much charity work wise I'm able to do.
Right.
Because that's where my heart actually lies.
Yeah. That's good that you brought that up because we need to segue into that anyway. You do a lot of book rescue programming. You're doing a lot of saving books from dumpsters and saving books from landfills. Oh. It's a wonderful calling, and you find homes for these lovely little books. Talk about that mission and talk about how recently I learned that you're growing it into a nonprofit organization. Mm-hmm. So talk to me about how that got started and the eventual vision you hope that it'll be at someday.
That started because I had to throw some books away. Mm-hmm. And I was warned that I was going to have to throw some books away. When I was given the books to initially get started, I was told, these are your filler books. These will go on your shelves. Your customers will bring you what they like to read because they're going to be trading with you.
Sure.
And your shop will grow into specific to your area. And each used bookstore is different.
Yes.
Each used bookstore is significant to the area that they grow organically in. So you will never find two used bookstores that are exactly the same.
Exactly.
Ever. Yeah. So I knew going in that at some point I was going to have to do a purge. And these purge were old series romance. Mm-hmm. I had Grisham's coming out the ears, and I took all of the ones that were falling apart or were worn, and I had stashed them because I didn't want to throw them away, and finally we just had no more room.
Yeah.
And so we got them on carts, and we took them all out to the dumpster, and I filled the dumpster with all of these. It's going to make me cry, really.
Yeah, it is.
Still.
It's
and this was 15 years ago that I did this.
Yeah.
We filled the dumpster. And then the garbage truck came, and the dumpster was so full that he literally struggled to get it up in the truck, and these books are falling.
Wow. As
they're going in, and they're falling down the sides of the truck. And I just stood there, and I bawled my eyes out.
And you said there's got to be a better way.
We're not, and I called my husband, I'm like, we're not throwing these books away anymore.
Yeah.
We're finding resources for them. And
So now, where do these homeless books now go? I mean, I know you're doing this practically every weekend. You're collecting more books and you're finding new homes for books. Once you get a surplus book, I just saw on Facebook you had a whole trailer full of brand new books come in. Once you get these books, I know you keep some of them for the shop, and then the ones that you simply don't have space for in the shop, your shop is overrun as it is.
Yes.
So how do you decide where they're going to be rehomed?
Well, right now, and my neighbor is very, very generous, and has given up her garage. So we take them back to her garage, and we sort them down into what we know needs to be recycled, because there's a certain part that we just know is going to go straight to recycling.
Sure.
What we think we can use in order to keep ourselves funded so we can keep doing what we're doing. And then a certain amount that we sort through, and some might go to little free libraries. We put book shipments together for Operation Paperback. We've worked with the Book Buckets program in Flint, which gets books into like homeless shelters, domestic abuse shelters, the
Excellent.
DHS offices, so that if kids can find a book, if they want to take that book with them, they can take that book home with them. Someone came in this morning looking for books for her daughter because the little free library by her house was empty, had 2 chapter books in it.
Okay.
And I went through and I'm like, okay, well, when you go back through, can you put these in the little free library? Because
Save me a trip.
no little free library should ever be empty.
I agree.
And we're always looking for more places that we can donate, because the sad reality is that if we don't have somebody to donate them to when we have them, we don't have anywhere to hold them.
Right.
Which means that if we cannot donate them at that time, they do need to go to recycling. And we are recycling way too many good books right now.
So you've mentioned primarily children's books, but you have adult books that you rehome as well. So do you, I know when I was managing the shop, we would rehome some of our books to places like women's shelters and hospital cancer departments, because you got to have something to do when you're sitting there doing chemo for 8 hours. We sent some to a local prison. What types of organizations have you found are welcoming in accepting your rehomed books?
We've sent books with Forgotten Man Ministries. We do have them in Genesis Now Ascension Hospital.
Okay.
And we have a woman that we work with there that gets some spiritual and inspirational stuff into one of the wards for us. And yeah, VA hospitals.
Yeah.
We've got them in, like I mentioned before, shelters. We sent a whole bunch up north to a senior center up there.
Nice.
Senior living center.
Nice. Excellent. One of the new things that you're doing with the shop now, which is it's kind of a new adventure for you, is bringing in indie authors, new books into your shop. I know we talked about that, and that program seems like it's really starting to take off and grow for you. What is your vision for that part of the shop? How big a program do you want? And are you interested in more authors coming to contact you, or would you like to reach out to them? I don't want to overwhelm you. You know, when authors see this program, I don't want a bunch of them to go to your website and say, hey, I want your, carry my book in your shop. So what kind of parameters do you want to put on that program? Because I know it is a new program for you.
Well, I think only because right now I'm so comfortable working with you, I'd like them to go through you.
Okay.
Just because I want to have a gateway into that. I honestly can say I don't know enough about it yet.
Yeah.
To know what's a good book, what's not a good book. I know I had a request from somebody to do a book signing, and when she sent me the book, it's a good book. It's just not appropriate for my store.
Right. Well, and that's one of the things I'm really grateful with in partnering with you and some other bookshops that I work with, is that I get to walk through the shop and talk with you and really come to understand what you need, what you're looking for. I'm more than happy to be that liaison for you. I think what you're doing with that shop is amazing. So we'll help the right authors find you.
Okay.
We'll help support you in that way. And then at some point you may outgrow us. But until then, authors can contact us at Pages Promotions, and we'll help facilitate that for you. talk a little bit about the shop. I love what you've done with this shop. There's 2 sections, used to be 2 different suites.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it used to be a tanning salon.
A tanning salon.
So there's separate rooms. Talk about how you came about deciding to do that rather than a full demolition.
Well, cost. A lot of it was cost.
Mm-hmm.
When we initially did the expansion, so we started out in our little shop, and then 6 months after we were in our little shop, we moved next door to the 5-room shop.
Mm-hmm.
And then 5 years ago, we put the hole in the wall to add on the other shop.
Mm-hmm.
So we've gone from 1,000 to 1,500 to 3,000 square foot in the span of, it'll be 16 years, November 15th.
It's amazing.
And it's all kind of grown organically. I've never, this is going to sound horrible from a business point of view, but I've never really had a plan. Everything has just kind of happened when it was meant to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime I've sat down and tried to plan something, things just fall apart around me.
So in the writing world, you would be a pantser.
I am a pantser. Yes, I'm a plantser. I have a vague idea, and I write a few things down, and then just off the cuff, and there I go.
I love that the shop is broken up into these separate areas, right? We're talking about the latest section of the shop that you just brought in. Used to be a tanning salon, so there's a bunch of small rooms where I'm assuming the tanning beds used to live.
Yes.
You've taken the doors off,
Mm-hmm.
and you've placed one genre in each separate room, so it has its own little space. That's brilliant.
Thank you.
I'm stunned at how brilliant that is. It's such a good use of space, and again, as you say, it really keeps your overhead down, so you didn't have to do a full demolish and remodel.
Right.
How do you maintain the shop? Do you have a crew of minions, or how do you do that?
I am still in the process of recruiting minions. I now have 2 rooms that have been adopted, because I'm one person. When we first started, there were 7 of us, and unfortunately, my parents have passed. My husband, who was unemployed shortly after I opened the store, now has a job. Thank you. My children have grown.
Right.
My sister lives in Southfield, has a family of her own now. So it has come down to just me. And so part of the function of the nonprofit was to, 1, get help with the book rescues, and 2, try and get some help in the store, because we've been we make enough, but not enough.
Right.
So I can
You
now
need volunteers
get
to help you.
volunteers.
Yeah.
And so I have a guy who's adopted the history room, and he knows history. He's having a ball in there.
That's great.
Doing it in I'm alphabetical by author. That's what I know how to do. Alphabetical by author. I know the main genres. I can give you a mystery. I can give you a romance. I cannot give you Peloponnesian history, okay?
Right.
Unless it accidentally falls into my hand. So he's in there. He's having a ball. It's going to be amazing. So this is what I need, is just help. Help to help me keep organized.
Yeah. People who have a love of literature and a specific attraction to a genre or to a style, so that they can go adopt a room and add their understanding to help readers find what they're looking for.
Yep, and we get it organized, and then it's a question of coming in every so often and just making sure things are still there, and once the room gets labeled, then we'll know where things go. So, yeah, biographies, memoirs could use some help. Religion, inspirational, self-help could use some help. Business, embarrassingly, could use some help.
Well, you don't have time. I've seen you in there. You do not have time. You're curating boxes of books that come through the store to figure out where they go, if you can keep them, or should they be rescued and rehomed. You're talking to customers. You got to keep the cat in a good mood. There's a lot going on in that place. And then the additional nifty thing that I think everybody who owns a bookshop should do, you have an author in residence in your shop.
I do.
Can you talk a little bit about how that came about and who this amazing guy is?
Okay, so Boyd Craven writes post-apocalyptic survivalist, and he does it, and I use the word organically a lot because I love things that just kind of come about. I'm don't like the process pressed, force things to happen. So he writes his survivalist stuff from a point of somebody who kind of has to find him. It's not like the end of the world stuff,
Right.
but it's more like of a situational. He goes away on vacation, and when he's going to come back from vacation, there's been a shooting in his little town, and there's a big riot going on, and it's just not safe to go back. So therefore, he has to learn how to kind of survive until it's safe to go home, because when he left, he didn't take a whole bunch of stuff with him. So Boyd writes these stories in my store, and there's a little hidden pocket room, and it's wonderful because sometimes when he writes a juicy scene, he giggles. And my customers who are in are trying to find the giggle. And the way the layout is with this little pocket room, and we have a bookshelf in front of it so that you cannot see it.
It's very Anne Frank. It is. I love it.
People go looking for the giggle.
Yeah.
And they cannot find him anywhere.
Yeah.
Or when he's dictating, he's back there, he's talking to himself. He does a lot of dictation. He does a lot of work in there. And it's not real loud. But it's just enough that you can hear him. And I see people back there, and they're like,
where is that coming from?
They're looking for the voice.
When I first came in your shop and I met Boyd, and he took me back and showed me where his little office was, I just thought it was brilliant. I think everybody should have an author living in the walls. I just think it's a brilliant idea. Was this his idea, your idea, a mutual kind of thing? How did that come about?
Well, he'd come in and tried to write before, and we originally had him in the office, which was right behind my desk. Well, you've seen my office. Yeah. You can imagine how well that worked out for him. So then a mutual friend of ours, he decided that wasn't going to work, and a mutual friend of ours sent me a Facebook message. Hey, I have an author friend who's looking for somewhere to write. Do you have anywhere where he can write? And I'm like, yeah, we already tried that once with somebody and it didn't work. And, who's your friend? And she sent me the name, and I'm like, okay, so somehow we have to make this work. And so we had this little pocket room, and we had a plan for it. And of course it turned into storage. And as little small spaces
Often.
that can be put out of mind can be. And so I don't remember whether I contacted him or he contacted me, or whether she had one of us contact the other. But anyway, he came in and we discussed it, and I'm like, you know what, I think I got a spot for you. And it's been wonderful. He just got back from a writing conference, and I miss him when he's not back there writing.
Sure.
It's
almost like a ghost in the walls.
Yeah.
And when the ghost is off visiting someplace else, you're kind of going, but it's kind of empty in here. I don't know. I thought it was just a brilliant idea. What a great opportunity. As you know, I'm working toward opening a new shop, and after seeing what you've done with Boyd, I'm definitely going to have an author in residence, because I think it's a beautiful idea. It's mutually beneficial for everybody. And I think it's neat that it gives people an opportunity to see how a writer works. I mean, he is tucked in the back and you really can't see him, but he's also gracious enough that if you want to meet him, he will come out and talk to you.
Yes.
Which is lovely. But it does give people an opportunity to say, oh, if I have questions for a real live author, there's one that works there. I can go in and say hi and take up 5 minutes of his time and maybe get my question answered. So I think that's a great mutually beneficial thing. Gives him the time to be anonymous and yet come out and be public too, when that is something that'll benefit him. I think it's very generous of you to give him that space.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, usually what I do is if somebody comes in, and obviously his books are there.
Mhm.
So I point them out.
Mhm.
And then I mention that I have an author in residence, but I don't ever say whether he's actually there or not, unless it's like to someone like you or
Right.
a few of the other authors that come in that will come in looking for him.
Mhm.
But I'll kind of wander around and I'll talk about his books and the fact that he writes there. And if he wants to, he can hear me,
Right.
unless he's got his headphones on.
Yeah.
So that way
He can make a
he
choice
can
to
make
come
a
out.
choice whether he comes out or not. And I'm not continually dragging people back here, opening the
This
door.
is not the
Look,
zoo.
Here's my author.
Yeah,
I
right.
have an author.
Right.
He's in here. But that gives him a chance to come out and talk if he wants to, or
Mhm.
Stay to himself if he wants to. I don't see him that much when he's there.
But-
Because he's writing. Because
Well,
he's writing.
right, but
But-
it's like having a shop cat. And I've met Springer. Springer's lovely. They're quiet, but they're there, and they add another layer of energy to the space, which I think is just fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
We don't live in a vacuum, right? We have to have an interaction of energy on many different levels, and I think that the fact that you're providing that is wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah. You have a bunch of authors coming in shortly.
We do.
You do readings and signings on weekends, and people can check your website to see who's coming when, or probably your Facebook page is a better idea.
Probably my Facebook. I haven't quite figured out how to update my. One of the things that got left in my lap was my media.
Okay.
So I still need to figure out.
So people
how to
should go to your Facebook page
go
to find
go
you.
to my Facebook
Okay,
page.
great. I know Donald Levin's coming in this
This
coming weekend.
Saturday,
I'm
yes.
going to be there next weekend,
Yes,
which
I
I'm
can
really
hardly
looking
wait.
forward to that. So yeah, I'm so grateful that you're willing to share your love of books and the written word with all of us. It's just a great thing that you do.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming out tonight.
And thank you very much for having me. This was enjoyable.
And we will have you again. I know there's a lot of changes happening at the shop, and especially with the new author section. So as things grow and change in your world, we'll have you back so we can talk some more.
All right. Thank you. I would love that.
Have a wonderful night.
You too. Thanks.